Hi, everybody. Today is July 27th, and I want to talk a little bit about uh, the uh, the three friends of Jesus that lived in Bethany, his good buddies, Lazarus, Martha, and Mary. They were brother and sisters, as you know, and whenever Jesus would go to Jerusalem, he would stop by and hang out in Bethany. It was a real place of rest for him, a real time of fellowship with him, with those good friends of his. We know from the Gospels, we have the famous story about Martha being busy in the kitchen, doing the tasks of hospitality for Jesus, and Mary, who was sitting at his feet listening to his words. We know that Jesus raised their brother Lazarus from the dead. And so Jesus was very close to these guys. Now, today's July 27th, and on July 29th, 2 days from now, is usually the feast of St. Martha. You know, Martha was busy in the kitchen. And we've never had on the calendar, oddly enough, a feast for her sister Mary or a feast for her brother Lazarus. Why is that? Well, last Saturday, July 22nd, was the feast of St. Mary Magdalene. Not the same gal as Mary of Bethany, but for centuries, Mary Magdalene, all the Marys in the Bible were conflated into Mary Magdalene, erroneously. Now we know that they are not the same two women. So maybe that's why they thought this is Mary of Bethany when we celebrate the Feast of St. Mary Magdalene, just a week apart from the Feast of St. Martha. But still, we never had a Feast of St. Lazarus. Why is that? Okay, so let's go back to the Feast of St. Mary Magdalene, not the Mary who's the sister of Martha and Lazarus, which was celebrated last Saturday rather, on July 22nd. Pope Francis did an amazing thing on our liturgical calendar regarding Mary Magdalene. Now, most people don't know that there are different levels of observance of saints in our calendar. You have, or feast days, as we colloquially call them. Solemnities are the highest level. Those are the big kahunas like Christmas and Easter. Then you have feasts, which are all the feast days of the 12 apostles and mysteries of Jesus, like the Feast of the Transfiguration, or of Mary, like her birthday. Those are all called feasts, technically. All the saints, all the other saints we celebrate them on what are technically called memorials, although we commonly call all of them feasts anyway. We talk about the Feast of Christmas, we usually don't say the solemnity of Christmas. We talk about the Feast of St. Martha, like I just did a minute ago. But technically that's a memorial, it is not a feast. But it's okay to call all those things feasts, as we always have. But I tell you about these distinctions because Pope Francis did an amazing thing with the memorial of St. Mary Magdalene, which has always been a memorial along with all the other saints. Not a feast, which again, the feasts are, the dignity of a feast is for the 12 apostles or for things celebrating mysteries of Jesus or Mary. There has never been a woman besides Mary, the mother of Jesus, who has a feast. All other women saints are memorials, as well as all non-apostle male saints pretty much are memorials. Well, Pope Francis raised the memorial of St. Mary Magdalene to a feast. The first woman, besides the Blessed Mother, who has a feast. She is on the same ranking as the 12 apostles by making her day that of a feast. And this is what was said by the decree which made that official, made that change that Pope Francis made. It says the Church, both in the East and in the West, has always regarded St. Mary Magdalene the first witness of the Lord's resurrection and the first evangelist. and with the greatest reverence has always honored her, although in diverse ways. Given that in our time the Church is called to reflect in a more profound way on the dignity of woman, on the new evangelization, and on the greatness of the mystery of divine mercy, it seemed right that the example of St. Mary Magdalene might also fittingly be proposed to the faithful. In fact, this woman, known as the one who loved Christ and who was greatly loved by Christ, and was called a witness of divine mercy by St. Gregory the Great, and an apostle of the apostles by St. Thomas Aquinas, can now rightly be taken by the faithful as a model of women's role in the Church. And so, Mary Magdalene is now on the same level of observance as the 12 apostles, and the first woman, besides the Blessed Mother, to ever be on that level of observance. So that's pretty significant that our Pope did. Well, back to the three friends of Jesus in Bethany, Martha, Mary, and Lazarus. As I said, we only have a Memorial Day of St. Martha. We've never had one of her sister Mary because they thought she was Mary Magdalene. Never had one of Lazarus. This is something else that Pope Francis changed in 2021, the year 2021. Now, the Memorial Day of St. Martha, July 29th, is also the Memorial Day of her sister Mary and her brother Lazarus. So now it's the memorial, or as we can say, even though it's technically not a feast, the feast of St. Martha, Mary, and Lazarus. So that's coming up on Saturday. So there's all that. Now tonight we have our next litanic, hosted by Andy and Kathy Walker at 11694 Rivercrest Drive in Gloucester, and that will be at 6:30. And next week we have a litanic on August 2nd at the home of Robert and Carrie Fallon at 6496 Milford Road. Watch the bulletin. There might be more information about that this weekend. Come to a litanic. The litanic season is winding down to a close as we're now into late July, early August. So make sure you avail yourself of these great opportunities. See you in church.